Hello everyone, I hope you're all excited for my upcoming projects. I've got some really big stuff I'm working on, and by now I think most people that are interested have seen my announcement for Project Dragonforged. This update will go over why I haven't shown off more just yet, some other things I'm working on improving for the game, and announce a cool video idea I had and why I haven't started recording for it just yet either. So, let's start with the elephant in the room. Project Dragonforged is taking forever. Believe me, I know. I've been working on it since 2021. The reason it's taking longer to finish and also get another teaser out is basically for the same reasons that it's taken me this long to make it in the first place. I've run into some hard to clear roadblocks that I have to wait on other people's help for. And more things became possible that I didn't think were going to be possible for years. Seriously. This mod has continued to snowball into something I never thought was going to be reachable in Dragon's Dogma modding. While I've tried to keep things a big secret because I like surprising the community and making big first impressions, I think I'm going to show off a few big things in the second Project Dragonforged teaser. I'll be sure to release that for everyone as soon as my friends get back to me and I'm able to clear all the necessary roadblocks. As for what I'm working on in the meantime, besides what little I currently can for Project Dragonforged, I've been working as usual on the game's visuals. Besides doing a bit of work on the UI, which isn't too terribly significant at the moment, I've been working on shadows. I was messing around with the models, and while we still don't have a fully working model tool just yet, I did come across some things I can mess with. If I open a model file in a hex editor, I figured out how to read some of it and set certain things to always cast a shadow. I've done this with a small handful of objects that didn't initially cast a shadow, as well as told weapon models to use their highest LOD for casting the shadow so that they look a bit better. But the main project I've been working on in this regard is character shadows. I've figured out some interesting things, but unfortunately, I've run into a roadblock with this as well. If I tell the game to use the actual character model to cast a shadow, it will, but there's an issue. The front of the face, as well as the tips of the fingers, fail to show up in regular gameplay. They will only show up in cutscenes. This seems to be, to my understanding, because these parts of the body are classified the same way as armor, clothing, and hair, which also will not show up on the player model outside of cutscenes. The other issue is that the shadow will disappear when wearing equipment according to which body part it totally covers. This wouldn't be an issue if the equipment displayed a shadow, but as mentioned before, it does not. There is a setting to make the player shadow not disappear, but the player's body will then phase through certain pieces of equipment. I've been trying for a very long time to figure out how to tell the game to render equipment and hair shadows, but at least for now, I'm coming up totally empty-handed. This brings us to the other option, which unfortunately still has issues of its own. I can duplicate the base player model and insert it in place as the shadow model. This eliminates the issue of there being no face or fingers in the shadow, as well as the issue of shadow disappearing when wearing armor or clothing. But this requires the model tool that we're working on to be fully functional. In its current state, it works just enough that I can export an edited body model into the game, but it causes glitches and shading issues. The other issue is that since it is using a static copy of the player model as a shadow model, rather than using the character model to cast the shadow, it can't take into account the character creation, so the shadow will not match the character correctly. At the very least though, while working on this, I did manage to figure out how to tell the game to always load the best LOD for the character models themselves. So, no more really ugly, low quality NPCs in the backgrounds of cutscenes. Finally, we have my idea for my new video. I call it Stranded, Bitter Black Survival. I'll go into more detail once the actual video releases, but here's the basic idea for the challenge. I wake up on Bitter Black Isle, starving to death and dying of thirst. Aura is gone and I have absolutely nothing on my person or in my inventory. I must forage for food, water, and use whatever equipment I can find to make it through Bitter Black Isle. And to top it off, the extreme hunger and thirst have robbed me of my strength. As such, all stats besides HP and stamina will be set to 0, and I will need to re-earn them by keeping myself well fed, hydrated, and rested. Additionally, until I've been able to keep myself in good health for a while, I've modded my stamina to not regenerate on its own. I unfortunately can't mod something as complex as a full system of mechanics into the game, but I've spent some time writing down exactly how the challenge will work. And through the use of video editing, I can insert a meter of sorts to visually represent my character's needs to the viewer. Besides all the time it took to get everything worked out, the main other reason that I haven't begun recording is that the video, whether I decide to split it up into shorter episodes or make it one long video, will be pretty long, approximately a couple hours long at the least. In my experience, a large portion of people who love Dragon's Dogma and watch videos on it are longtime fans of the game, so they know the ins and outs and may even be a bit burnt out on the gameplay at this point. Everyone knows what Bitter Black Isle holds by now, so besides the hopefully interesting addition of survival mechanics I'm adding to this challenge run, I often try to offer at least a few new visual improvements every time I make a new video. So besides the UI textures I'm working on perfecting, I'm working with a 3D artist friend of mine to make some very high quality textures for the player models. We're currently working on finishing up the male textures, and with any luck, the model tool might be totally finished soon enough that we can make a few improvements to the actual model as well. Once at least the textures are done, I want to start recording the video. As a bonus bit of news, I do have one more thing to share. There's nothing written in stone yet, but I did recently do something kind of crazy. Longtime viewers of my channel, and friends of mine in the Dogma community, know that I've been working on remaking the game's textures in 4K for 6 years now. However, despite a lot of practice, research, tutorials, college classes, blood, sweat, and tears, my abilities still don't quite live up to my own standards. I'm going to keep trying because I truly want to give this game a nice, faithful, fresh coat of paint. But in an attempt to aid in my efforts, I've reached out directly to Capcom and asked for a job, specifically to do work on Dark Arisen, with the idea being that if they have any high-quality assets saved from development, I can use them to create maximum quality versions of the game's textures. And I've since heard back from them, and to my surprise, they didn't immediately shoot me down. They told me that they didn't have any openings at the moment, but that they appreciated my support and would keep me in mind, as well as hold on to my contact information. I know they likely won't have every texture in 4K, as many textures are photos taken on old cameras, but if they still have, for instance, the high poly models they would have made for baking normal maps as well as for like the game's cinematics, then at the very least I should be able to bake 4K normal maps for player bodies, monsters, and equipment, which will dramatically improve the overall look of the game as well as save me thousands of hours trying to recreate the high poly models myself from scratch. Cross your fingers for me, everybody. This would be a dream come true. And that's all for this update. I hope it at least helps you guys understand a little bit why all my stuff takes so long. I'm always running into issues. Even so, I hope everyone looks forward to the really cool stuff I've got in the works. See you guys in the next video.